Investigations and Homeland Security for the Sheriff's Office. I want to go over a little bit about our officer-involved shooting that we had last night. So I'll recap what I covered this morning. Around 2:25 this morning, the Sheriff's Office received a call from an alarm company regarding a burglar alarm with an interior drop at the Gate Liquor Lounge located at 9900 block of Blue Turner Road. As standard policy for them, they'll typically contact a key holder, let them know that the Sheriff's Office has been dispatched, and they'll send the key holder there. As policy, they'll let us know what their key holder is wearing, the car they're driving. That information is relayed to the patrol officer on the street, as was the case last night. So at about the same time as these things are happening, the key holder arrives thinking that he had actually maybe not set the alarm correctly. He had left the business maybe 15 minutes before that, after it closed, taken somebody home and returned back when he got the call. So he thought maybe he had not set the alarm right. So he enters it. He's going to check the keypad. As he goes inside the business, he sees a masked, armed suspect in the bar area. That's enough to scare him, so he quickly turns around and flees the business. Well, at that same time, the officer has pulling up and actually had seen the key holder as he was pulling up enter the business. Matched the description given. Didn't think much of it. Well, he sees the same key holder come running out, quickly followed by the masked, armed subject. The officer, who was at his car at that time, gave verbal directions repeatedly for the subject to stop, put the guns down, and get on the ground. That subject refused to comply. These were repeated instructions. The subject turned to run, kind of ran towards the side, back of the business. Again, the officer, this time, giving a very short pursuit, gave the instructions to stop, put the guns down, get on the ground. That subject turned at him. When the subject turned at him, still armed with the guns, the officer fired his issued service weapon 8 times at the suspect. One of those rounds struck the suspect in the leg. 2 of those rounds shot by the suspect, or by the officer, hit the rifles that the suspect was carrying, striking both of them in the magazine well of the gun. So the subject was actually holding the guns. The officer shot where the threat was, which is what we're taught, hit the gun. The subject at that point in time gave up, got on the ground, was taken into custody. I mentioned last night, it's standard protocol that we'll place that officer on administrative leave, which we have done. That officer is a 5-year veteran of the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office named Steve Coleman, common spelling from Coleman. Our subject who was, again, transported, treated at UF Health and released is 27-year-old Michael Hollis, who has an extensive criminal history, including multiple drug violations, carrying a concealed firearm, an abduction charge, and assault with a deadly weapon. Last night, he was charged with armed burglary. The guns that he took in the burglary, as I show here, are actually ones that he got from inside the business. He did not enter the business with those rifles. He found them inside and decided that that's part of what he was going to take. Stole those as he was leaving. So he got charged with carrying a concealed firearm because he is a convicted felon and resisting an officer. It should be noted that he gave a full confession to our cold case detectives, saying that he is a drug addict and makes burglaries a routine manner of course that he gets money and those kind of things from. It should be noted that one of the shots fired by our officer did strike a house that was in the backdrop. There was no injuries reported. The woman was home, was not aware that the house had been struck, and it was the corner of the house that received damage. Can take any questions if anybody has them.
Tom Chuchel from the Times Union. Were these guns, were they registered? What was the? You said they were found in the business.
These were owned by the owner of the lounge, kept in his business. We don't really register firearms anymore. We have nothing to assume that these are any kind of legal purchased guns.
So legally owned by.
They're legally owned by the business owner. Again, as a matter of course, as part of the investigation, we would look at those, make sure they weren't stolen guns. But nothing leads us at this point in time to believe anything other than they're lawfully owned by the business owner, who is within his rights, obviously, to keep those guns in his business.
Ashley Harding, Channel 4. Is this an AK-47 and this an AR-15?
I don't know the caliber exactly. I can see if I can't get that for you. I know this isn't an AK-47 looking gun.
Yeah, it is.
Certainly easy to say that it's an assault rifle. The actual make of that to be an AK-47, I'll look into it and get for you.
Roger Weeder, First Coast News. Director Hackney, were those guns loaded, I guess?
Both of these firearms were loaded, yes.
Letitia Variola, Action News. So when the suspect went into the business, was he armed with anything? Because he got those guns inside.
No, he took the guns inside. We didn't find anything else on him that he would have been armed with. He did have some marijuana on him, and again, he was masked up, which is another booster of a crime. Obviously, you commit a crime, the mask on that enhances the penalty for that. So, no reason to believe that he was armed before that, but he certainly did arm himself while in there.
Director Hackney, for an officer to confront assault rifles like that in the course of being in the wee hours of the morning, not something you normally expect.
Not something you normally expect, and you know, our body armor that we wear has some protection against high-powered rifles, but it's limited, and that certainly that plays a factor into what you see and you think out there. You don't want to come across any kind of firearm, but you come across something like this that can penetrate the body armor that we wear. It adds that extra sense of fear to the whole thing. Yeah, this was, and I mentioned this morning, that this is the second incident within a 24-hour period where the men and women of the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office have been confronted by guns, one of which was fired at the officer. These weren't, and then last night at 7:35 we had men and women from the Jacksonville Fire and Rescue Department who were refueling their fire truck rescue unit and were fired on the south side. You know, these men and women, we don't conscript people to work for the city of Jacksonville. You know, we're certainly paid, but we volunteer to come do this job, and it should certainly concern the citizens of Jacksonville when the men and women that they hire and pay to keep them safe, and the men and women that they call when they need help are the ones who are under attack, simply for the jobs that they do, and especially the fire and rescue men and women. Those guys don't carry guns. They don't wear vests. It's disheartening. It's concerning to the sheriff's office, to the sheriff himself, and it should be to the rest of the city.
On that note, can you talk about the latest on the investigation with JFRD and the shooter